Hello, everyone, and welcome to your Saturday Evening Post Week in Review. We are here at Metazor Brewing. My name is Chris Wakefield. I am the marketing manager for the Saturday Evening Post.
I'm Nicholas Gilmore. I'm a staff writer at the Post.
I'm Troy Brownfield, also a staff writer.
Lot to get to this week. First, like always, let me tell you, you can get a one-year membership to the Saturday Evening Post for only $15. That gets you 6 new print issues of the Post, access to our online archives that features almost 200 years worth of content. Every issue in the archive you can explore cover to cover, exclusive member benefits, and a whole lot more. That's all online. SaturdayEveningPost.com. 15 years gets you a one-year membership. That's a really good deal. First thing I want to talk about is a piece that came out Wednesday morning after Election Day, talking about some of the sore losers in American politics. Troy, in this piece, anything stick out to you?
Well, Nick and I were talking earlier about Teddy Roosevelt and the fact that, Roosevelt's own protege kind of unseated him. That'd be William Howard Taft for the Republican nomination. And so Roosevelt went off and formed his own party, which was the Progressive Party or the Bull Moose Party. Which is interesting because it's really the first time you see the word progressive associated with politics.
And he was a Republican beforehand,
Right.
I think the first time you see bull moose associated with I was picturing like a bull and a moose put together.
So would you call that being a sore loser then? He becomes
started
president.
his own
He
party.
willingly gave up his spot in the presidency. He said, "I'm not going to run again." Taft, you do it, and then he loses.
I was more intrigued with Anthony Weiner's response to reporters when he flipped them off from his car.
It happens.
That's not good press. Is it?
It's kind of making a bad situation worse. You can read Jeff's piece over at SaturdayEveningPost.com. The 10 sore losers in American political history. A very, very interesting piece up on our website. Nick, you've got a piece that's out now about a war correspondent who today is her birthday, or this week is her birthday.
Yeah. So Martha Gellhorn just turned 110. I mean, she's dead.
She would have.
Would have turned 110 November 8th. She was a war correspondent for a lot of U.S. publications all around the world throughout, spanning most of the 20th century. She went from, she covered poverty in the Great Depression up until U.S. invasion of Panama.
Wow.
When she was like 89 years old. She was Hemingway's wife for a time. But
One of his wives.
One of his wives. She was, I think, his third wife. But that's just about the least interesting thing about her. She didn't want to be remembered that way. She wanted to be remembered for her, writing career. She lived in the White House with the Roosevelts. She snuck onto a hospital ship to cover D-Day.
Wow, really?
Yeah. She didn't get a press pass. Hemingway did, but she didn't. So she kind of made her way past a few guards and snuck into a hospital ship, locked herself in the bathroom until it started taking off across the channel, and then she came out and
Popped up.
she got to the coast. She got to Omaha Beach before Hemingway got to Normandy.
So you're saying if Jim Acosta wants his press pass back, he should marry Ernest Hemingway?
Yeah, that's exactly what
We'll
I'm
figure
saying.
that out later. Are we out of the age, it seems like? And of course, we haven't had any great wars, quote unquote, of those prolific war journalists. You have Matthew Brady during the Civil War. You have Ernie Pyle, who is synonymous here in Indiana. Is that era over?
I don't know. You've had some people that have been identified with being a war correspondent. Arthur Kent during the Gulf War, Peter Engel for NBC. He was even kidnapped at one point. So I don't know. I wouldn't say that's necessarily over, but we don't receive our news in the same way. So these kind of first-person narratives of I'm on the front line and so forth, I think a lot of those are gone. But I do think that we have some people who we do at least identify with that kind of reporting.
You know where else you can see some great war reporting from the Civil War, First World War, Second World War? The Saturday Evening Post online archives. We have almost 200 years of history on those archives, and you can flip through issue by issue going back to 1821 and read a lot of correspondence from the front lines of some really, really big wars.
So Martha Gellhorn actually rode with British flyers in the 82nd Airborne, while they were doing raids over Germany, she rode in their planes with them and wrote about that in the Saturday Evening Post. So that's one of the features.
Yeah, and we do have a special interest publication related to World War II.
Yes, we
coming
do.
out.
D-Day, yeah. The
Yes.
D-Day special interest publication coming out very soon.
And the Civil War is already out. So again, go over to SaturdayEveningPost.com. There's a wealth of content, even more so if you are a member and you can access those digital archives. Another piece going up over at SaturdayEveningPost.com. Troy, you're working on a piece about federal holidays.
That's right. We started talking about this because of November. November's got, a couple of federal holidays, plus also during the month of November, 25 years ago is when Martin Luther King Jr. Day was signed into being a federal holiday. Obviously, it's in January, but the signature was applied in November of that year. People don't really give much thought to the federal holidays other than those are days I might get off work. There's 10 of them. They have a lot of interesting things about them. Thanksgiving in particular is kind of cool because it's been really contentious in its history. It didn't get signed to the way that we celebrate Thanksgiving now until the 1940s.
But some people think it started with, it kind of did start with Lincoln, right?
Well, Washington actually proclaimed a national day of Thanksgiving, and then, it would come in and out. There would be kind of annual proclamations. Jefferson didn't do one at all. Some people did. And then, like you said, Lincoln fixed a day in November, and then so there's this legacy of it going from Lincoln forward. And then Roosevelt wanted to move it. He consulted with different people, and one of the people was Fred Lazarus of Lazarus and Macy's, and he had suggested, because this was the Depression, maybe moving it back, because it used to be really taboo to advertise or promote Christmas holiday shopping until after Thanksgiving. And so they thought it might stimulate the economy by throwing an extra week into the shopping season. So he suggested moving it back, since it was a 5-week month that year, to the 4th Thursday instead of the last Thursday. And Roosevelt thought it was a great idea. And of course, people lost their minds, and for the next couple of years, there was a lot of conflict until there was a resolution passed in Congress that Roosevelt signed that fixed it to the last Thursday for 4-week Novembers and the next to last for 5-week Novembers.
Thanksgiving is 2 weeks away. Is that crazy?
That is craziness.
What happened to November?
I need to start cooking. Well,
he's going to start cooking the turkey now.
No, November had a lot of other craziness. Let's just go with that.
We have Veterans Day coming up next week, early next week, and we have a lot coming out again online at SaturdayEveningPost.com about Veterans Day, along with your piece on federal holidays. So again, go over to the website SaturdayEveningPost.com to see all that content. Nick, where can we find you online?
I am on Twitter at Darwin Jr. with a Y.
On Twitter at Troy Brownfield.
You can find me at Wakefield Report, and of course you can find the Saturday Evening Post everywhere: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, World Star Hip Hop, all those places at Saturday Evening Post. Again, 1-year subscription, $15, SaturdayEveningPost.com. And if you don't like looking at our faces, you can now subscribe to the Saturday Evening Post Weekend Review podcast. We are on every major podcast provider: iTunes, Stitcher Smart Radio, Google Play. Everywhere you can get this show as a podcast, and if you listen to the podcast, you should rate us and review us and leave us a 5-star review. That's all we have this week from Minnesota Brewing. We'll see you all next week.